Cell 1. In this cell, we delve into the critical importance of optimizing inventory safety stock, with a focus on service level guarantees. This topic resonates deeply with various facets of business profitability, as effective safety stock management directly impacts revenue, cash flow, and overall costs. When we strategically decide how much safety stock to maintain, we're not just making logistical choices, we're influencing financial outcomes. The logic here hinges on how safety stock serves as a buffer against uncertainties in demand and lead times. By setting a target service level, often represented as a Z-score, analysts can quantify risk tolerance. This means that every decision is rooted in data, transforming random fluctuations into a controlled framework for service guarantees. For example, if a leader challenges the need for additional inventory, one can confidently respond with data-driven insights that justify those extra units based on the probability of stockouts during lead times. Moreover, this scenario highlights a Pareto problem often seen in inventory management. A minority of stock-keeping units typically accounts for the majority of safety stock expenditures, suggesting that by prioritizing these SKUs, companies can significantly alleviate stockout challenges. This prioritization leads to clearer narratives supported by visual data representations like Pareto charts and service cost curves, making complex data accessible and actionable. Additionally, safety stock embodies a bridge, seamlessly linking forecasting, supply chain dynamics, and operational execution. Managing inventory effectively means anticipating demand uncertainties, evaluating supplier performance, and preparing for unexpected risk events like natural disasters or supply chain disruptions. Finally, the implications of safety stock extend to pricing strategies. Insufficient stock may lead to costly rush shipping and lost sales, while excessive inventory can inflate storage costs, ultimately resulting in higher prices for consumers. This concept becomes even more salient during emergencies, whether in the wake of snowstorms, pandemics, or seasonal spikes in demand for essentials. As we move into the next cell, we will explore how we can implement quantitative methods to determine optimal safety stock levels, allowing us to leverage the insights discussed here into practical applications. Cell 2. In this cell, we're establishing a foundational framework for managing inventory through an example that includes various key components, such as an item master and demand statistics. This setup is crucial because effective inventory management hinges on understanding both demand patterns and lead times, which can help businesses maintain optimal stock levels and reduce unnecessary holding costs. Starting off, we create a simple item master data frame that summarizes essential details about each product, including its stock keeping unit, name, and category. This is a human-readable format that you would typically extract from more complex systems like CSV files or ERP solutions in a real-world scenario. Next, we move on to developing a demand and lead time statistics table. Here, we use parameters such as the average daily demand, the standard deviation of demand, and the average lead time in days to characterize how each item behaves. The service level reflects the desired probability of not running out of stock, which is a critical metric when it comes to assessing inventory risk. The merging of these two data sources creates a comprehensive dataset that provides visibility into both demand and product details. A significant step in this process is calculating the safety stock level and the reorder point, which are pivotal for maintaining service levels. The safety stock accounts for variability in demand during the lead time, where we utilize the Z-score derived from the service level to quantify this risk effectively. Additionally, we compute the average demand during the lead time, adjusting the standard deviation accordingly. This gives us a robust understanding of potential fluctuations in demand. We also touch upon the daily holding costs associated with maintaining the safety stock, which provides insight into the financial implications of our inventory decisions. Finally, we clean up the data frame for clarity and organization, displaying only the most relevant columns in a format that supports decision-making. The outputs not only present the basic item info, but also highlight key financial and operational metrics. As we transition to the next cell, we'll begin applying this data to develop reorder strategies and delve deeper into optimizing inventory flows for better efficiency. Cell 3. In this cell, we're setting up a simulation that helps us understand how demand levels can influence stock reorder points. This is crucial for inventory management, allowing businesses to optimize their restocking strategy. The function defined here, simulate CSL, takes several parameters: the average demand, the standard deviation of that demand, the reorder point, and the number of simulations to run, along with a seed for reproducibility. The logic is straightforward yet powerful. First, we initiate a random number generator using the specified seed, ensuring that our results can be consistently reproduced in future runs. Next, we create a dataset representing demand levels by drawing samples from a normal distribution, defined by μdl, the average demand, and sigma dl, the variability around that average. The essence of our simulation lies in determining how often these demand levels fall below the reorder point, ROP. By comparing the demand samples to the reorder point and calculating the mean of these comparisons, we essentially get the customer service level, which tells us the percentage of time we'll have enough stock to satisfy demand without facing a stockout. In the next step, we apply this simulation across all rows in our data frame. Each row reflects different parameters for the average demand and standard deviation, thus resulting in a tailored customer service level for each scenario. This approach allows us to generate insights specific to different inventory situations. It is important to remember that the results depend heavily on the accuracy of the input parameters. If the average demand or variability is incorrectly estimated, it could skew our predictions, making it vital to use reliable data. The output of this cell will show the first few rows of the data frame with a new column that contains these simulated customer service levels, providing insight into the effectiveness of our current stock management strategies. Looking ahead, the next cell will likely delve deeper into interpreting these results, possibly comparing them across different scenarios to guide decision-making processes in inventory management. Cell 4. In this cell, we're delving into the fundamental concepts that underpin inventory management, focusing on how we can calculate key metrics that help ensure products are available when needed, without tying up excessive capital in stock. Understanding these metrics is crucial for striking a balance between supply and demand, ultimately supporting efficient operations. At the core of this cell, we define several essential variables that help us assess our inventory strategy. The first set includes identifiers like SKU, item name, and category. These are vital for organization and reporting, making it easy for stakeholders to interpret the data. Next, we introduce average demand per day and the volatility of that demand. Both of these figures guide how we evaluate potential fluctuations in customer purchases, which is important for determining how much stock to keep on hand. We then consider lead time, defined here as a constant number of days required to replenish inventory. This assumption simplifies our calculations, but readers should remain aware that lead times can vary in real-world scenarios, impacting outcomes. Service level gives us a target probability of not running out of stock during that lead time, a critical factor for maintaining customer satisfaction. Using these variables, we calculate mean demand during the lead time, essentially how much product we expect to sell while waiting for a new order. We also factor in demand volatility, determining how much uncertainty exists in our sales patterns over that period. This insight helps us establish what we call safety stock, a buffer of extra inventory aimed at preventing stockouts. Next, we find our reorder point, which is the inventory threshold that signals a restock is necessary. Maintaining stock above this point reduces the risk of running out, particularly if the demand suddenly spikes. We also calculate the holding cost associated with safety stock to understand the financial implications of carrying that extra inventory. It's worth noting that in this setup, we're assuming a lead time of 7 days and aiming for a reorder point that gives us a 98% chance of avoiding stockouts during that time. This gives us a strong safety net, but requires ongoing assessment of demand patterns and lead times. Looking ahead, the next cell will likely build upon these concepts by exploring how to optimize reorder strategies further and potentially analyze real-time data to refine our inventory practices even more. Cell 5. In this cell, we're setting up critical helper functions and initial parameters that will play a pivotal role in our demand forecasting and inventory management model. This is essential for understanding how different demand scenarios and lead times impact the overall inventory strategy, which is crucial for maintaining service levels and reducing stockouts. First, we define functions to calculate mean and variance for a mixture of Gaussians, which allows us to combine different sources of demand and lead time variability. These functions take in means, standard deviations, and weights, and they return a combined mean and standard deviation. By normalizing the weights, we ensure that they sum up to 1, allowing for a clear interpretation of how much influence each component has on the overall mixture. Following this, we introduce a function that computes demand during lead time variance. It focuses on how lead time and demand variability interact, specifically during uncertain supply conditions. This function utilizes expected values and their variances to calculate the overall uncertainty in demand during the lead time, a critical component in designing reorder points. We then have a function to simulate potential service levels through a Monte Carlo approach, allowing us to assess how likely it is that demand will be satisfied, given specific reorder points. This assumes normally distributed demand and lead times, which is common in inventory management. One critical aspect to take note of is the need to ensure that lead times are always positive in our simulations, which we handle by rounding and clipping. Next, we generate a synthetic dataset to simulate our inventory items, categorizing them and assigning baseline demand statistics, such as mean demand and standard deviation. Here, the service level for each item is derived from its category, which influences inventory policy significantly. Finally, we consider multiple warehouses with different lead time characteristics, allowing us to optimize our supply chain further. Through this entire process, assumptions about demand distributions and lead time models are critical, and learners should be aware that deviations from these assumptions could lead to inaccuracies in forecasts and inventory policies. Looking ahead, the next cell will likely build upon this foundation by introducing additional complexity, such as integrating promotional demands and adjusting for external factors like weather, further refining our inventory and replenishment strategies. This will enhance our ability to respond to real-world scenarios effectively. Cell 6. In this cell, we're generating a plotly chart that visualizes the relationship between service level and safety stock for a selected SKU. This chart is crucial because it allows us to observe how safety stock changes with varying customer service levels, highlighting the concept of diminishing returns, which is significant in inventory management. To start, we're selecting an SKU from our data frame that has the highest cost per day. This step is important as it focuses our analysis on a representative item, which may have a substantial impact on costs. Once we have our SKU, we proceed to compute the safety stock curve by simulating a range of customer service levels, from a moderate 70% to an impressive 99.5%. We generate this range using evenly spaced values, which helps us see how safety stock evolves as we aim for higher service levels. Next, we apply statistical concepts to derive the safety stock for each service level. Specifically, we use the inverse of the normal cumulative distribution function, which is influenced by mean demand and effective lead times. This nuanced approach guarantees that the safety stock we calculate reflects real-world inventory needs based on demand variability. The computed safety stock values are then stored in a list, capturing both the SKU details and the corresponding service level. This data is subsequently transformed into a data frame, which offers a structured way to handle our computed results. Finally, we plot the data using Plotly, creating a line chart that succinctly illustrates the relationship between safety stock and service level. The visualization's dimensions are carefully set to ensure clarity without losing detail, and the resulting chart becomes a powerful tool for decision-making. Looking ahead, this can be a springboard for further insights into inventory strategies. The next cell might dive deeper into comparing multiple SKUs or analyzing how different demand patterns affect safety stock calculations, enriching our understanding even more. Cell 7. In this cell, we're creating a waterfall chart to visually represent the decomposition of the reorder point, or ROP, for a specific stock keeping unit, referred to here as SKU. Understanding ROP is crucial because it helps businesses determine when to replenish inventory, ensuring they meet customer demand while avoiding overstock situations. The first step in this process is to gather the necessary components: the mean lead time demand, the safety stock, and the actual reorder point values, all extracted from our data frame. Here, μDL represents the average demand during the lead time, while SS is the additional safety stock kept on hand to address variability in demand and supply chain delays. The ROP is the total that we derive from combining these two components. What we're doing is setting up the waterfall chart using the Plotly library, which allows for an intuitive representation of how these elements contribute to the overall reorder point. Each segment of the chart represents one of these critical components, starting from the mean lead time demand, adding the safety stock, and culminating in the total reorder point. It's important to note that the measure attribute guides how these components are visually represented, specifying which parts are relative measures and which is the final total. After constructing the chart, we update its layout for better visibility, ensuring it's sufficiently wide and tall to accommodate the data. Additionally, we include a dynamic title that specifies which SKU and item name we're analyzing, which helps contextualize the visual for viewers. One assumption here is that the inputs we've collected are accurate and relevant. Any discrepancies could lead to misleading conclusions. As we proceed, we'll anticipate that this visual will not only assist in comprehending inventory needs for this SKU, but also serve as a foundational tool for data-driven decision-making. In the next cell, we'll likely delve deeper into how variations in these parameters can impact overall inventory strategy. Cell 8. In this cell, we're creating a heat map to visually represent the safety stock cost per day for various products, specifically focusing on the top 25 stock keeping units, or SKUs, based on base weather conditions. This visualization is particularly useful for understanding how different factors influence costs across different items, ultimately aiding in inventory management and decision-making. The workflow begins by making a copy of our main data frame, which contains relevant product information. We then create a new column that combines the SKU and item name into a single label for easier identification in the heat map. To simplify our visualization, we sort the data by the base weather safety stock cost per day and retain only the top 25 entries. This ensures that our heat map remains readable and concentrated on the most significant data points. Next, we utilize Plotly Express to generate the heat map. The function takes in a selection of columns that represent different cost scenarios: the base cost, promotional cost, and base weather cost per day. These are presented along the x-axis, while the y-axis displays the previously created labels of our top SKUs. This arrangement allows us to compare how these costs vary across our selected items effectively. It's important to note that when interpreting the heat map, one should be cautious about the underlying assumptions, particularly around seasonal variations and potential promotions, which can significantly impact stock costs. A common pitfall could be over-relying on this single visualization, without considering additional contextual factors. With this heat map now established, we're well positioned to gain insights into the cost implications of maintaining safety stock under different conditions. Looking ahead, the next cell is likely to build on these visual findings, possibly delving into how we might adjust purchasing strategies or inventory levels based on these insights. Cell 9. In this cell, we are creating a Pareto chart to visualize the daily safety stock costs influenced by base weather conditions. This visualization is crucial because it helps identify which stock keeping units, or SKUs, contribute most significantly to our costs, allowing for more informed inventory decisions. To start, we sort our data based on the daily safety stock cost, which is labeled as base weather SS cost per day. This enables us to focus on the highest cost contributors. By using the cumulative sum function, we calculate the cumulative cost to illustrate how total costs accumulate with each successive SKU. This cumulative cost is then converted into a percentage of the total cost, providing insight into how much of the overall costs are represented by individual items. Next, we create a label for each SKU, combining the SKU identifier with its corresponding item name. This enhances clarity in our chart, making it easier for stakeholders to identify which items are which at a glance. The visualization itself features two traces: a bar chart representing the daily safety stock costs and a line graph showing the cumulative percentage of these costs. The dual y-axes help us contrast absolute costs with relative percentages effectively, making it simpler to assess the overall impact of each SKU on our safety stock expenses. It's essential to consider that while this chart provides a strong visual representation, the underlying data is predicated on accurate input values. Misestimations could lead to misguided conclusions about inventory priorities. Looking forward, the next cell will likely build on this analysis, diving deeper into potential strategies for optimizing these safety stock costs or exploring how different variables, such as weather fluctuations, can further influence our inventory management. Cell 10. In this cell, we're focused on visualizing lead time distributions for different scenarios related to a specific stock keeping unit, or SKU. By employing histograms based on simulated data, we aim to provide intuitive insights into how lead times vary between near and far suppliers, as well as an effective lead time that amalgamates various conditions. First, we set up a random number generator, ensuring that our simulations are reproducible. Next, we draw samples from two normal distributions, one representing lead times from near suppliers and the other from far suppliers. These distributions are characterized by their respective means and standard deviations, which are pulled from predefined parameters. This gives us a realistic range of lead times for each scenario. By simulating 20,000 draws, we create a substantial dataset that helps to smooth out anomalies and better represent typical variations. We then move on to calculate the effective lead time distribution, which consolidates the complexities of both normal and storm conditions into a single normal approximation. Here we utilize parameters that capture the essence of the effective lead time based on our earlier calculations. After preparing the data, we construct a data frame that holds the lead time values along with their corresponding types. This setup not only organizes the data efficiently, but also prepares it for visualization. Notably, we ensure that no lead time values are negative, which would be nonsensical in this context, by clipping any lower values to 0. Finally, we generate a histogram using Plotly's powerful visualization tools. By overlaying the distributions for near, far, and effective lead times, we create a compelling visual that allows for easy comparisons. The histogram is set to display a clear title and is adjusted to optimal dimensions for viewing. Looking ahead, the next cell will likely delve into analyzing these distribution results, helping us to draw actionable insights regarding inventory management strategies and decision-making based on these visualized lead times. Cell 11. In this cell, we're focusing on visualizing the dynamic reorder point for a specific stock keeping unit, or SKU, across the months, with considerations for both seasonal trends and any significant events. This visualization is crucial for understanding how the reorder strategy may fluctuate throughout the year, driven by different factors such as seasonal demand and event alerts. The first step involves filtering our dataset to isolate the data relevant to the selected SKU. We're merging two data frames, one that captures the normal reorder points and another that contains event-driven reorder points, allowing us to see how both adjustments affect our inventory strategy. By merging these datasets based on the month, we create a comprehensive view that highlights how reorder points change in different scenarios. To ensure clarity in our results, we also establish a defined month order using a categorical format. Sorting the data by months allows for a logical flow in the visual representation, aligning closely with the natural progression of the calendar year. This step is important because incorrect ordering could lead to misleading interpretations. Our graphing mechanism is powered by Plotly, where we create a figure and add traces to it. The first trace displays the seasonal reorder points under normal circumstances, while the second trace represents the modifications made due to event alerts. This duality helps highlight the differences and showcases how events might necessitate a different inventory response. With the layout set up, we personalize the visual with an informative title, specifying both the SKU and item name for context, along with labeled axes for easy interpretation. Additionally, we've tailored the figure's dimensions to enhance its readability, crucial for presentations or reports. As we move forward, the next cell will likely build upon this dynamic visualization, perhaps diving deeper into analyzing the implications of these reorder points or exploring further scenarios that could influence our inventory decisions. Cell 12. In this cell, we're creating a summary table that highlights key changes in the reorder point, often abbreviated as ROP, across different conditions, including promotional activities and weather-related factors. This is crucial because understanding how these variables influence inventory management can help businesses optimize stock levels and reduce costs. First, we define a list of columns that are essential for our summary. These include identifiers like SKU and item name, as well as statistical measurements such as the mean and standard deviation for demand during both regular and promotional periods. This comprehensive set of data allows us to draw comparisons between how items should be managed under different circumstances. In the next step, we make a copy of the relevant columns from our existing data frame, DFAll, ensuring we focus solely on the variables that matter for our analysis. We then introduce two new columns to the summary, which represent the difference in reorder points, one measuring the change during promotions compared to the base scenario, and another assessing the impact of weather deviations from regular conditions. Each of these columns is rounded for readability, presenting the differences in a clear and concise manner. After calculating these deltas, we sort the summary table based on the cost of safety stock per day for the base weather scenario, in descending order. This helps prioritize which items might require immediate attention based on their associated costs. Finally, the output displays the top entries of the summary table. This gives us a snapshot that highlights the most significant effects on reorder points, inviting us to think critically about how inventory strategies can be tailored in response. Looking ahead, the next cell will likely delve deeper into the implications of these summary findings, exploring how the identified reorder point changes can influence future inventory decisions and strategies. Cell 13. In this closing cell, we're wrapping up our exploration of the entire Jupyter Notebook, which is essential because it helps us summarize the insights we've gained and solidify our understanding of the material we've covered. This step not only provides a sense of closure, but also emphasizes the journey we undertook through the various analyses and visualizations. As we conclude, it's beneficial to reflect on how the different components we explored all fit together. Throughout the notebook, we examined distinct data sets, applied various methodologies, and generated visual representations that deepened our insights into the underlying phenomena. Each step was designed with a purpose, addressing specific questions that arose from our analysis. It's crucial to note how these components, like the data preparation, the exploratory analyses, and the final visualizations, play a cohesive role in building our understanding of the topic at hand. By consolidating our findings, we can better appreciate the key takeaways. This not only reinforces what we have learned, but also prepares us for further investigation. As we transition to the next part of our learning, we should consider how the insights gathered here can inform future projects or analyses. The groundwork we've laid will undoubtedly prove beneficial as we dive into more advanced concepts, expanding our toolkit and analytical capabilities even further. In the upcoming sections, we will build upon the knowledge from this notebook, exploring how to apply these insights to more complex scenarios, and possibly introducing new methodologies for innovative problem solving. This leads us into an exciting phase of discovery, where we once again engage with the data in fresh and intriguing ways.